This is Union Station. It's Canada's busiest building. But most of the 250,000 people who come through here every day are in a rush. They're trying to get to their subway, they're trying to get to their train. There's a project underway to change that. The Union Station renovation will disrupt the idea of a transportation hub, from something that you zip through to something you actually visit and stay a while. When you thought about what you could do with this space, what was the first thing that came to mind?
There's an opportunity to really enliven the space, to make it a destination. It's a gorgeous building, but it's bursting at the seams in terms of capacity. The regional commuter rail is every year growing at a rapid pace. There's commuters 2 hours in the morning, 2 hours at night. That's at its peak period, but there's another 20 hours of the day. There's got to be something else that can be done with the building.
What do you think is missing when it comes to how a city like this thinks about Union Station?
Union Station's always been sort of left out. It's always been dumpy. It's never been like the shining jewel of the city. And it's not as beloved as it could be. I think people see the potential of it. The potential is getting people to stop and hang out here. The way people hang out in, say, Grand Central Terminal or some of the great train stations in London that are almost like destinations, the places you might take a date to. Union Station, could be that. It is the center of the city.
So what's going to happen in this space here?
Here we're peeling back, you can see, back to the old marble columns. And then there's going to be a restaurant here. We're going to put in a mezzanine so that people can sit here and people watch. And then on the south walls, we're going to have the ability to project movies or live sporting events. There's a couple test patches that you can see, the original color of the stone. Now we're entering what's called the dig down. There's an expansion underway through the building. It's being dug down underneath all of these columns. There's 447 of them in total, are supporting active rail lines. They had put in 4 temporary columns, metal columns, around each of these. You can see seams in each of the columns. And so the columns were cut, dug out, new column was poured, the temporary columns were removed, and then that's one column. Now they had 447 of those to go.
What's going on right behind these walls is amazing. It's like an open pit mine in the middle of the city. The only place that we could dig down was below the existing station and the existing platform, which is the innovative aspect here. We had to do this in a way that allowed the trains to continue going. 43 million people, they still have to get to their jobs while we're doing all this work. This kind of an excavation under an operating train system where they actually extend the columns down, they don't think it's ever been done, but it's come together in a unique way here. First in Canada for sure, and likely the first in the world.
How does something like this disrupt what we think of as a transportation hub, Union Station?
You're going to be able to actually do more, and it'll be a better financial model for people to be able to rest. And that very notion in a train station is unheard of. The idea of getting people to rest in a place where they're supposed to flow.
Oh, wow. What is this?
We're wedging a floor of retail between the platform and the bedrock. We're not going to move the tracks, and we can't change where the bedrock is. We don't have the luxury of space. That's where a lot of the innovation and the design is coming in to make sure that we can keep things as tight and compact as possible, to squeeze all the heating, the ventilation, your fire suppression, all of the services that need to be in there. It's incredible. It's going to be the food court.
Okay.
It's a commuter hub. Can this serve as a food court for people that when they need food, but then beyond those times, is there other things that we can do to bring people down here? Can it become an event space, some sort of gaming competition, hackathons, art displays? If you do the design right, that will allow those possibilities to happen.
Are you creating things specifically for Union Station? Tell me a little bit about that.
We saw things like light bulbs and air ducts and fire extinguishers and drywall, and we said, how do you marry those objects into some kind of sculpture? One of the big things at Union is respecting the heritage. Develop a language that recognized the Beaux-Arts heritage of the station. How do we express the grandeur of this industrial space, this civic infrastructure? We reimagine that duct, turn that into a light, into a fire extinguisher, a ceiling module, so they can be repeated over and over again, like a family of sculptures, to create this idea of a ceiling. The same logic was applied to furniture.
How so with furniture?
The furniture needs to accommodate someone running and then wants to stop for a second, put something down, and then run to their train. And then at the same time, across from them, someone hanging out. You have to make something that's not a table anymore. I would call an urban workshop. Yet you have to be able to get food and eat food and charge your phone and stop. And so this has to take a new shape. And they have to be fluid. And they have to talk about speed. How does that translate into an architecture for acoustics? How does it translate into a shoe shining station? How does it translate into a table?
How difficult will it be to pull this off, do you think?
In Toronto, we tend to do things on the cheap. We don't like to go on the full gilded renovation for a place. And then when we get the lesser version of something, we complain about that. So that's a risk of not going the full American style deep renovation of it to make it a real jewel.
It will be a success when we see tenants wanting to come here, when we have people asking to host events here, when we have people coming to us saying that they need to be in the station.
In the flow of a city, what do you see as the place of this building?
Train stations have long been a welcoming point, an entrance, an exit. People from well outside of Toronto coming in through the National Rail. It was a main piece of the line that brought British Columbia into Confederation. This is a building that was monumental in the construction of Canada. It needs to be a place that Canadians can be proud of.
We have to think about the individual moment of the person in there and not just the salmon stream. It's about creating poetry out of that would normally be considered inertial.
I'm Brad Keast.
And I'm Alex Josephson, and we disrupt civic infrastructure.